A quiet reassessment inside Ottawa is beginning to echo far beyond Canada's borders, one of the largest military purchases in the nation's history, a plan to acquire 88 F-35 Lightning II fighter jets is no longer viewed as settled business. Once projected to cost about 19 billion Canadian dollars, the program has since climbed toward nearly 30 billion, pushing it to the center of a much broader national conversation. For decades, Canada's skies were guarded by the CF-18 Hornets aircraft that symbolized a generation of air power. But by the late 2010s, those fighters were reaching the limits of their service life. That reality triggered a long and politically charged competition for a successor, culminating in March 2022, when Ottawa selected Lockheed Martin's F-35. At the time, officials emphasized performance, stealth, and interoperability with allies. Yet just 2 years later, rising costs, schedule pressures, and growing trade tensions have reopened questions many believed were already answered. Is the F-35 still the right aircraft? Is it worth the price? And perhaps most controversially, how much control does Canada truly retain over the fighter that will defend its airspace for decades to come? At the heart of the debate lies less about speed or weapons load and more about sovereignty. Under the F-35 program, Qatar would operate within a tightly integrated multinational system led by the United States, while the jets would fly under Canadian roundels. Major software updates, sensor changes, and some weapons integrations would still flow through U.S. controlled frameworks. Supporters argue this ensures seamless cooperation with allies. Critics counter that it limits Ottawa's ability to independently shape the aircraft's future. Sweden's Saab Gripen, which competed against the F-35, was built around a different philosophy. Saab has long promoted the jet's open architecture design, structure that allows customer nations greater freedom to modify software, integrate domestically developed weapons, and upgrade systems without waiting on a foreign government's approval. During Canada's competition, Saab went further, proposing final assembly in Halifax and major aerospace investments across Montreal and Vancouver, turning the purchase into not just an acquisition, but a domestic industrial expansion. Operating costs have also fueled controversy. Public figures from various governments suggest the Gripen may cost significantly less per flight hour than the F-35. Though such comparisons depend heavily on accounting methods, mission profiles, and sustainment models. Still, with fighter fleets expected to remain in service for 40 years or more, even small differences can translate into enormous long-term spending, shaping how often pilots train and how widely aircraft patrol Canada's vast territory. Readiness rates and maintenance systems tell another part of the story. U.S. government reports have highlighted challenges within the F-35's global supply chain, including spare parts delays and fleet availability concerns. Sweden, meanwhile, designed the Gripen around dispersed operations, assuming its aircraft might need to fly from remote locations with limited infrastructure. Maintained by smaller crews in harsh conditions, that design philosophy resonates in a country like Canada, where Arctic temperatures can plunge below -40 degrees and bases are often separated by thousands of kilometers of wilderness. Supporting stealth aircraft in such environments requires significant infrastructure upgrades investments. Department of National Defense has acknowledged could add billions to overall program costs. Economic benefits weigh just as heavily. Canada has earned billions in contracts from the global F-35 program over the past 2 decades, though much of that work involves manufacturing components rather than controlling core technologies. Saab's competing offer promised larger domestic facilities and long-term technology transfer, an appeal that continues to resonate as Ottawa seeks to strengthen its aerospace sector. The procurement process itself has remained contentious. While official evaluations showed the F-35 scoring decisively higher than its competitors, particularly in mission performance, Saab later raised concerns about how negotiations unfolded. After bids were submitted, questioning whether changes to cost and delivery terms altered the competitive landscape. Ottawa has defended the integrity of the process, But the dispute added another layer of controversy to an already sensitive decision. International pressure has also hovered in the background. American officials have publicly stressed the importance of maintaining common platforms within NORAD, the joint U.S. Canada Air Defense Command that has protected North America since the Cold War. Shared aircraft, sensors, and networks, they argue, form the backbone of continental security. Choosing a different fighter could complicate that integration, a reality Ottawa must weigh carefully amid broader trade and diplomatic tensions. Inside Canada, policymakers increasingly speak of defense procurement as leverage, not merely expense. Government ministers have framed major purchases as opportunities to secure industrial growth, technology transfer, and long-term autonomy. Analysts report discussions around potential hybrid approaches, retaining a limited number of F-35s for high-end alliance missions, while acquiring a separate fleet focused on Arctic patrol, sovereignty operations, and domestic control. Cost growth, delivery delays, and geopolitical uncertainty are all feeding this reassessment. Even former senior Air Force commanders have entered the debate, warning publicly that reliance on external political will, no matter how friendly today, always carries strategic risk. Within the Royal Canadian Air Force itself, opinions appear divided. Some pilots admire the Gripen's rugged design and adaptability to cold climates. Others point to the F-35's stealth sensor fusion and secured data links as capabilities unmatched by any current rival. Both sides agree on one thing: this decision will shape Canadian air power for generations. Under one path, Canada deepens integration with allies. It's benefiting from shared platforms and cutting-edge systems, but accepting limits on independent control. Under the other, it risks friction with its closest partner, while gaining greater authority over upgrades, maintenance, and industrial development at home. The government has not yet announced any formal reversal of its F-35 commitment. But the debate is clearly no longer theoretical. What Ottawa ultimately chooses will signal more than the selection of a fighter jet. It will reflect how a G7 nation defines sovereignty in an era of alliance politics, supply chain vulnerability, and renewed great power competition. The question now is not simply what aircraft will patrol Canada's skies. It is who decides how those aircraft evolve, and what price a nation is willing to pay for independence in an increasingly uncertain world.